Ready to roll?
Always.
Hey everybody, welcome to SketchUp Live. My name is Josh. This handsome fellow is Aaron.
Oh, blush.
And
Hi guys.
today we're talking about modeling a mini golf course or hole in SketchUp, but I'll let Aaron describe that. You've probably seen him talk more about it in previous Facebook videos.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen or not, but we actually have a competition going on right now where you get to design a mini golf hole that could potentially be used at this year's 3D base camp. It's sponsored by ShopBot. It's all going to get cut out on a CNC machine, but what we have is there's a template up on the 3D warehouse. Check for the term CNC Golf. Everything is tagged with CNC Golf, just one word, CNCGOLF. If you go look at it, there's a template you can get there. The template includes things like what's the maximum footprint and what pieces do you have to work with. Everything has to be cut out of 2 pieces of 1/2-inch plywood and up to 4 8-foot 2x4s. So we're going to look at that template right now and kind of see what it is we're trying to put together. And Josh and I figured it'd be kind of fun. Here's the thing. Josh and I can't actually enter the competition, and it's making for some tense times right now. I mean, Josh is a little worked up. He really wants to win, but so this is our compensation is we get to design some stuff live, and you guys get to see what we would do. This is just kind of an idea, give you an idea of what could be done and how to design in a way that what you're creating can actually be used for fabrication afterwards. So that's the general idea here. So we're just going to kind of jump right in. As always, we value your input. We do this because you guys watch it, and we'd love to hear what you think, what's going on. So if you have questions or comments as we go through here, of course, make a comment down below and let us know what you think and what we should be doing. So with that.
All right, I'll start here. Am I connected there? Cool. All right, I'm going to take a little bit different approach than Aaron might. So what I'm going to do is kind of make a skin that I can morph around some structure, which I can then pull material area off of instead of just cutting up some of the stuff here. So we'll see how it goes. The first thing I'll do is I'll grab the rectangle tool.
Something we should point out is Josh and I have come up with these designs independently, so it's going to be fun to see what we have, because we don't know. We don't know what we've done.
We don't, and I'm not sure that I'm going to draw what I plan to, so we'll see.
So you started with, can you back up real quick and just show the template real quick?
Yeah, so the template, all right, I'll erase all this great geometry.
Sorry to put you back. That one's on me. So this is the original template.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Right. It does have, the group right there is locked, so if you actually pick on that, you can't change or modify that piece. And then the other 2 pieces, the pieces they'll actually be cut from are there to the side. So you have the 2 pieces of plywood that'll be cut and the 4 2x4s on the ground next to the space you have to work inside of.
Yeah, so it's 5 by 10, right?
Yep, 5 foot by 10 foot is the maximum footprint.
Okay, so I'm just going to divide up this surface here, looking for the midpoint there, so I can start to push-pull something. Get rid of that line, push-pull this. Let's go 6 inches, see how it works. I'm going to get rid of that middle chunk. I don't need that. And I'll do a reverse faces here, and then I'll group that. And then I'm going to use the Sandbox.
That's kind of like a boundary for the whole hole.
Yeah, I thought about using the pieces of 2x4 over there, but I need those for elevating some of the stuff, so I'm going to use some of the extra plywood. Okay. So I'm going to go to the Sandbox Tools now, which is in View Tool Palettes, and it's not an extension, it's actually a native tool set, Sandbox. And I'm going to use this because I want to use some auto fold with SketchUp. I want to show how that would work. So first thing I'll do, you can see in the bottom right, it says 1 foot grid spacing, which is what I want here. I'm going to go 5 foot that way and then 10 feet this way. And I'm doing that because if I drew a rectangle of that same size, it would be all one surface, and autofold wouldn't work quite the same. So you'll see here how that works. I'm going to go in here and reverse those faces, and all right, that's a good starting point. I don't care too much about the overlap right there right now. I'm going to leave that.
So you're really using Sandbox tools not necessarily to create smooth geometry, which is what a lot of the tools in that tool set have, but actually to create that initial geometry to work from.
Yeah, so as a little preview here is if I grab some of these quads, actually they're not really quads. If I do hidden geometry, they're triangles.
Right, which is
if you delete one of the hidden lines there, it would be a quad. But anyway, if I grab some stuff there and use the move tool and go straight up, you can see I can pretty quickly start to modify that surface. So I just wanted to try this and see how it would work instead of using chunks of wood and just kind of use the rotate tool. So that's the goal there. I'm going to first move these 2x4s off to the side here because we got some power tools coming in, need a little more space there. So the way I'm going to break up this board is I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to divide it into 2-foot sections. And the way I like to do this is just copy this rectangle, 2 feet and 3x. And that way I can just kind of grab this geometry. If I turn X-ray mode on, you can see kind of what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to copy that out, copy this piece out. Obviously I don't have to do this. I can, create a 2-foot long piece and copy it 3 times, but in the spirit of
Fabrication.
kind of building this like we're going to fabricate it, I kind of like doing this way. But it's definitely a little bit more work. I'll reverse these faces.
But it is a good way to assure that you're actually using the material that's provided and you're not using anything extra. You're not going to accidentally require 12 2x4s when you actually only had 4 to use.
Yeah. So I'm grouping these little pieces with a shortcut for make group, just using G.
And that's an important piece too, as we talked about this earlier, making these pieces groups intentionally rather than components. Because as you put these in, you want to be able to modify them one at a time, not have a modification to one affect all of them.
Exactly, yeah. And so now I'm going to just make a kind of a little box here, and I'm not going to worry too much about how these are connecting right now. Just want to get this kind of quickly going here. And X-ray is really good for doing things like this where I can pick the right points a little faster. So I got those connected, and we'll make a group out of that piece, and then I'll just position this where I might want it in the model. And in this case, I'm going to throw this in the corner. So this is a little bit of structure that I might try to manipulate the surface onto. So let's go and grab this corner here, go to X-ray mode, toss it in the corner there. And so you can see here, the goal now is to jump in here and pick the right surfaces like this. So I can use the auto fold, and it's only going to affect a quadrant of this larger surface. And I can hold down shift when it's in the blue axis and then snap on the top of that wood. So of course I can see through that surface now and see the wood, which I wouldn't want in the end, but for now I just want to get the surface area, so I'm okay with that. So I can keep going, or do you want to start yours?
Sure, we can hop over. We'll take a look at how different ways to possibly go about starting this model up. So like we said, Josh and I actually kind of designed in bubbles. We did not design complementary. We're actually designed our own things. So I'm going to go about mine in a little bit different way, but we'll see how that works. It'll work well, is how it will work. But it'll be fun to see how the difference is. All right, so I'm going to work off of the exact same template. This is the same thing that Josh has. I'll have my locked group over here, and then my pieces I can work from here. I'm going to start designing shapes knowing that I'm going to have to come cut them from these pieces. The first thing I want to do is I need a half circle. So the general design of my hole is going to be a platform here with kind of a jump up to a platform over here. So I'm going to start with, rather than having a square right here, I'm going to create a half circle. So I'm going to start with a circle and I'm going to pull that out 2 feet. I'm doing 2 feet because if I cut this across like this, I know that this shape right here can get cut out of this piece of plywood because it's 4 feet across. So a 2-foot radius makes this a 4-foot wide piece. I'm going to take that piece now and I'm going to use push-pull to pull it up 0.5 inches, just a ½ inch, and I'm going to triple click and make group. That is one of my pieces. I'm going to line that up right back here, right at the, ooh, a little jumpy. Too much coffee this morning. All right, let's try it again. Where's the middle point? There we go. And so that's going to be the base that I'm going to start the ball from, and I want that to go forward and then go up a ramp. So I'm going to create a rectangle right here. I'm going to use this corner as a reference, pull across to here, and then get in there. There we go. Bring that out. Let's say, we'll say it's going to come out 3 feet. So we'll say 4 foot, comma, 3 foot. All right, so there we go. That looks pretty good. And I want to take that, and I'm going to do this a little bit different from the, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'll just pull this up to get it that same ½ inch, and then triple click and make it a group. And now to actually get the ramp, I'm just going to use the rotate command, and I'm going to rotate from the top here. I'm going to click right there. See it snaps to the red. Click anywhere on this point and just pull it up. I don't know, how's 20 degrees sound? Good.
I like it.
All right. We have consensus. All right, so that looks pretty good. It's a little dull though, so I might come in here and maybe chop this up a little bit. I'm just going to draw a line right here to indicate where the center is. And then maybe I'm going to do something. I'm going to select this line right here. No, I'm not. I'm going to come this way. I'm making this up as I go. I'm going to come over here 6 inches, and I'm going to draw a line down, say about 10 inches. Whoops, that was 10 feet. That's too far. 10 inches. I'm going to come across 12 inches. And I'm just using this just lines. I'm snapping along the axes and then typing in the dimension. At this point I can type it, click right there. All right, I want a little gap in the middle there that I can, so I want to make it so they have to choose one ramp or the other. So I'll block this off so they can't go up the middle. It's still a little big here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from this middle point here, drag it down here. So what I'm doing is, again, not worrying too much about actually specifically cutting out of a piece here, but making changes to this geometry that I know will fit inside this space. So all of this that I've created so far will come out of one piece of plywood with no problem. The other thing I'm keeping track of is my 1/2 inch material depth. So if I look down here where this ramp transitions, I don't have any materials crossing over each other or anything like that. I know that these two pieces can physically fit like this when it's actually fabricated. So that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to come in here, I'm going to put a couple supports in real quick, and then maybe some boundary pieces, and then we'll hop back over to Josh. So I'm going to have a 2x4 standing up from the ground to hold up this corner. So I'm going to click right here, I'm going to drag down the blue axes, and I'm going to hold on shift, and I'm going to snap to something that's on the ground. So these letters of the template work. Click right there. I'm going to come over the green axis 3.5 inches, because that's how wide a 2x4 is. Silly Americans call it 2x4, even though it's 3.5 by 1.5 inches. I'm going to come up, again, up the blue axis till I hit the face of the ramp, and then back up here. That'll give me a single plane there. Now I can take that and pull it across here, use push-pull to make it 1.5 inches, enter. All right, so there is my one support. I can take that and make that into a group, and I can take that and I could copy it, option here. Again, I'm just using the move tool, hitting option or control before I click, and place it. So there we go, we got a ramp, looks pretty good. I do have a couple things I want to change here. I want to get some 2x4s in here. Like I said, I don't want people to be able to take the middle of the ramp. They have to go to one side or the other. So I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to draw the footprint of a 2x4 on this slope. So I'm going to come across 1.5 inches. And I'm going to come all the way down to, actually it doesn't matter how far I come down because I can use push-pull. Come back across. I did not go, something was out of plane there. All right, try that again. This is what it's all about. Screwing up live. All right, there we go. So I drew my rectangle on top of that surface, and I can now pull that up 3.5 inches, and there's my 2x4. Triple click to select all the geometry, right click, make group. Again, just like Josh, I'm making a group because I want these pieces individually editable. I'm going to copy it across here. And then maybe I'll do the same thing right here where I'll come across like this. I'll come down 1.5, back over here 1.5, 1.5, pull that up, and again triple click, make that group. Last thing I might do the same thing down the sides. I want to have something to prevent it from rolling off the side here. So I'm going to grab this, again with move, option or control click to drag it over and put it right here. Obviously that's an issue. I do have an angle here. So what I can do is I can use the rotate tool, and I want to lock my rotation to this plane. So while my little compass is on that plane, if I just hold down shift, you see it turns magenta, and the surface I'm on turns magenta also. So as long as shift is held down right now, I can pick any point and it'll rotate perpendicular or parallel to that surface. In this case, I'm going to choose this point. Then I'm going to grab this point and bring it over and let it snap to that line. Then I can use the same thing. I can double click into this group, push, pull, and pull it down there. Nice. So probably do the same thing, get another piece over here, and we'll hop back over to Josh while I do it. You guys don't need to see that twice. You got the idea. And once Josh has a little more input, then we'll hop back over again and talk about where the balls are going to land once they leave the ramp.
All right, let's do it. First, I'll answer a couple questions that came through. I mentioned Sandbox Tools when I first started. Sandbox Tools, I think the question is why are they called Sandbox Tools? Well, I didn't name them that, but I can guess why they're called that. Let's go to my screen here real quick. So I have another surface here. If I go to this Smooth tool, S-M-O-O-V-E.
It's not misspelled, that's what it's supposed to be called.
You can see here that I have a radius of 6 inches. So before I start using the tool, just like any other, or a lot of tools in SketchUp, I could say, all right, let's do a 4-foot radius, so the radius of influence for that. And you can see here as I depress and kind of push-pull things here, that's kind of why they're called Sandbox Tools. They're often used for free-form landscape type stuff, but of course, there's lots of ways you can use tools in SketchUp, not necessarily what they're intended for. So I think that's why they're named Sandbox Tools. And then a question as well regarding what's the shortcut for X-ray. I made X-ray a custom shortcut. Just use X. If you use X, you should know that when you do a linear or radial array in SketchUp and you do a number and then X, you can also do X and then a number to define copies. If your shortcut is X-ray, you have to do the number and then X.
Right.
If you do X, it'll engage X-ray, so just know that.
It is a custom shortcut, like you said,
Yeah.
though, so you can actually assign it to any key you want.
Yeah.
And then we have one more question about the purple inferencing. That was something I showed. Anytime you lock to a geometry, whether it's a line or a surface or anything like that, it will show up by holding shift, it'll show up that way. You can also get a purple inference from the down arrow key. Left, right, snap to red, green axes, up snaps to blue. Down will actually snap to the last geometry you were hovering over. So if you're drawing a line, you hover over a line, hit the down arrow, it'll snap to parallel to that line. Down arrow again will snap to perpendicular to that line. So magenta is just the not red, green, blue axes reference.
Yeah, it's anything but the main cardinal directions or the main red, green, blue. Okay, back on my screen here. So while Aaron was talking, I did chop up this 2x4 just so you guys went to watch that again, but I made it a 2-foot by 1-foot piece there, and I'm going to jump into the Sandbox Tools here, and I'm just going to select these two. And again, the way I'm doing this is I'll turn the rest of the model off temporarily. I'm just grabbing those two squares and bringing them up, and with the Move tool you can do that. And if I go back and see the rest of the model here, I can hold down Shift and then kind of snap on that height. All right, looks good. And look at that with X-ray mode. Looks pretty good. And then I'll move on to something over here now. I'm going to grab a full length of one of these 2x4s and just toss that over here as kind of a divider. So I think I'm just going to put this in the corner here. And X-ray often helps here. Even when I can see a pretty clear endpoint, sometimes X-ray just makes it a little bit easier to kind of align to things like that. So that's why that's a pretty nice shortcut to have. I'm going to go over here and make a bit of a ramp. And in this case, I want to delete some geometry. Well, I'm going to first group this stuff. So I'm going to group this run of squares here and group that, go in here, and I'm going to erase some of these lines so that if I move this square up, then it will auto-fold the rest of that geometry. But you'll notice here it's not actually going to work like I would expect. And that's because with the Sandbox Tools, I was given some extra geometry here that I don't really want. So I'm going to get rid of these diagonals. And then now, if I move this up, and I can just say, let's go 1 foot high. And are we still live?
Yeah.
Still going?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
that's good.
Cool. Everybody got quiet over here.
We're in awe. It's just couldn't speak and watch at the same time.
Okay. I'm going to probably grab this piece and drop it down, copying that down to the bottom here. And let's go ahead and make the hole here, the end hole here. I'm going to grab, maybe turn the rest of the model off and inference that midpoint, and this one as well. Find the center, And we're going to say like a 4-inch hole.
That's what's required.
Oh, so I want a 2-inch radius actually.
Yep.
There we go. And so what I'm making here is kind of a ramp where basically I'm calling this the, I don't know, this is where heroes roam, I think. If you get down here, you can try to go on this ramp that doesn't have any edges and drop the ball through this top hole, or you can go around this way. So that's what I'm going for. I'm going to make this hole that, if you make it in this one, maybe a little bit bigger. So
it doesn't sound like what the heroes would do, but that's okay.
Well, you're rewarded for attempting to be a hero. All right, so that's a bigger one if you want to go that route. And okay, I think I'm going to also go and grab a support for that.
So you can see what Josh is actually doing is using those 2x4s as kind of stock material that he's cutting from. So you're actually referencing and removing pieces as you use it. A little different.
So what I could do on Aaron's comment there is, let's cut this piece out. So again, I'm inside a 2x4 component. If I turn the rest of the model on, I'm still able to inference other geometry, which is pretty cool for things like this where I can cut this away. But let's say we wanted to use this scrap. Maybe I'll copy this up just to remind myself, hey, I've got a little bit extra wood there. Then I'll pull this away. Actually, let's make this a full size there. Might as well color that wood color. Then I can pull that away to get rid of it. And got a nice doorstop there, I guess.
You never know.
Cut this out and paste it in place. So I'm using a shortcut here for edit, paste in place.
Paste in place is a great way to move something from one context to another.
So there's a scrap over there, and that's looking okay. Obviously we need a little bit more. This scrap from the previous piece is going to be a nice vertical support, so I'll just do that, and we'll rotate it up 90, and then I'll just grab a corner. I'm not going to worry about the extra on this part for now, so got some extra on the bottom too. It looks pretty good there, and turn off hidden geometry. So we can go back to you, Aaron, or I can keep going. What do you think?
Sure. I'm ready to do some more stuff.
Okay.
As usual. All right, so we'll hop back in here. And this was actually not intentional when I started modeling this, but when I first started modeling this, I put this geometry in, and I realized when I went to the top, it looks an awful lot like the Millennium Falcon.
Don't act like that wasn't intentional.
Initially, well, it was this time, but my first design, I thought it would be cool to not have a square here and then to have these two ramps, and then I went, hey, that's awesome. But it helped me for the second part of my design because I decided that, if it's charging towards something, what I want to do is I want to take, so this Millennium Falcon ramp took up most of one piece of wood, so I'm going to use the other piece, cut it in half, and create two things. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create just a, wow, that's some weird snapping stuff going on. There we go. So I'm going to make a 4-foot by 4-foot square. I'm going to pull that up 1/2 inch to account, again, there's another half of my piece over here. I'm going to triple click and make that a group. And I'm going to move that so it's centered in my space, so it's centered with the ramp. And this is where I'm going to put my hole. So I'll put my hole maybe, I'll put it like right about, come off the center and there-ish, 2 inches. I did that out of context, so I'm going to delete that and double click and try again. I'm going to draw a circle. Use that middle point, pull it in here, 2 inches, and then I can pull that to the bottom, let it snap to that bottom face. And there we go. So that's the piece it's going to go onto. Obviously the issue I have right now is if I hit that hard enough, it's going to clear the whole thing. So what I need is a backboard. So I'm going to do a couple things. One is I'm going to put something to attach the backboard to. So I'm going to actually put a 2x4 right here. So I'm going to click right here, bring it over here. And when I'm drawing a specific size, a lot of times what I'll do is rough in where I want that rectangle to go, and then look at that dimensions field down in the lower right corner. So if I look in the lower right corner right now, it shows me that I'm drawing something that's 4 feet by about 2 3/8 inches. So what I actually want is a rectangle that is 4 feet long, comma, 3.5 inches. And that's a 2x4 laying flat. If I pull it up, another 1.5 inches. All right, so that is my support. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw one more. Actually, I'll use the same thing. I'm going to grab this group I just made. I'm going to grab it by the midpoint, click right here, and I'm going to hit Option to make a copy. And I'm going to put that at the middle of this 2x4 right here. So they're overlapping right now. And I'm going to hit Rotate, click right here, and drag that vertical. All right, there's my backboard. 4 foot piece, 4 foot piece. So this is one 8 foot 2x4 here. So now what I want to do is put my backboard in the middle here. And this is where I got inspired by my original design, because rather than putting just a rectangle here to bounce it off of, I figured I'd put a plywood version of the Death Star. Don't get too excited, that just means it's going to be a circle. So I'm going to grab a circle, and I'm going to find the center of this 2x4. So I'm going to snap to the middle point here, start pulling it across, and then I need to get this center point right here and drag that down. Get out a little bit so I can see where the center point is. There we go. Center's right about here. And I pull that up. I could type in 2 feet, but if I snap right here again, because it's a 4 foot piece, the snap point at the top is 2 feet. Click there and pull that out 0.5 inches. Again, triple click to select all the geometry and make that one last group. So from there, this was pretty much my simple design. I have a little ramp. I can choose to shoot on the right side or left side. It's going to go up, bounce off the Death Star, and hopefully end up down here inside that hole. I do have a little bit of material left, so if I wanted to, I could actually come in and maybe I'll place one more piece of wood. I'll copy this again and put it right here, just as kind of a backboard. Maybe I'll do this. I'll rotate it vertical and use Move to slide it over here, and then maybe I'll come in here and move this circle forward a little bit so it's not quite so close to the back wall. But that is the general idea. I actually have enough wood. I think I have one more piece left over where I could actually come in here and close that square up all together, but it's a little more fun if it could possibly roll off into the inky blackness of space.
Dangerous fun.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's a little action scene too. Watch the Millennium Falcon fly over to the Death Star.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Okay.
In case you were wondering, that was cool.
Yeah.
All right, with that, and that's my hole. So Josh, it's up to you to wrap her up. Finish it up.
Yeah. Let's cruise over here, and thank you. So I added a few more things as Aaron was talking. Just added some supports there, and I was realizing as I was doing this that this method's kind of cool, because let's say I wanted to make a modification now. Actually, all I have to do is, if I wanted to move this over to the side, to this side, I can just do that, and this actually would save me some wood. So I'm going to do this, and then snap that to this piece. That means I can take this piece of wood out for future usage, and now I can just easily modify this terrain, because if I do that, snap to the bottom, that kind of goes back to where it was. And if I go here and grab these two, actually I should pull these supports out just a bit. Look at that, perfect fit, perfect. Not intentional, but that's awesome. I'll push-pull this, or not push-pull, I'm going to move along the vertical axis, snap there. So there I just modified the course. That's pretty cool. Got an extra piece now. Ooh, you know what? I actually don't want that to be angled, so I'm going to go back here, and I think what I want to do is I want to group, let's check this out and see what I have to group here. So I need to group these separately, I think. Let's see if this works. If I group that, then go in, then do this, then go up, you can see it's now not going to...
So it's going to auto-fold only what's in the group.
Yeah, so now I can more easily control that, and then I've left this kind of flat for those people that have a lower caliber of bravery. They can go this route. But you know what? I got an extra piece of wood now, so I'm actually going to put that piece of wood in the way. over here, paste that in place.
There's just no easy way through this thing, is there?
Well, this is the easier way, but you know, there's it's still fraught with peril, I suppose.
It's light peril, but it's peril nonetheless.
Yeah, you can probably get around that, but it's to deter someone from not taking the brave route. So if you want to be a hero, you can try to one-putt that one up there, or you can go around.
Speaking of heroes, we just got a notification that David Kenyon is planning coming to 3D Basecamp from Sri Lanka.
Wow.
So
Nice.
I don't know exactly where that is, but I know it's far away, so way to go.
It's just south of India.
Josh is all over it. That's awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing you at Basecamp. Come up and say hi to us.
Okay, so now
So I had a question with this, Josh.
you do.
So this looks like an awesome way to rough in geometry, but you're basically pushing around planes, right? I mean, this is flat geometry. This is not actually like plywood. It's just flat planes as of now.
Conceptual at this point.
Right.
And now I can decide what I want to make, have some thickness to cut out. So that's a good time to do that. So one thing I want to do here is to optimize the boards. I'm going to turn on hidden geometry. And let's see, I want to connect this piece there, I think. And I don't need what's below. It's extra stuff there.
And this is normal. This is nothing special you did. When you create that grid initially with Sandbox Tools, those extra lines, those smooth lines are automatically show up.
And now I'm getting rid of them because I just want to push-pull the pieces that I would then cut out of the board. So if I push-pull, let's make a group out of these first. That's a nice safe group. Jump in here. We'll group this as well, that as well. Again, I'm using G for group, which is a custom shortcut. It's a lot better than doing the right click and making group. Now I can jump in and push-pull the thickness, which is 1/2 inch. Go over here, do that again, double-clicking with the push-pull to repeat that. All right, so now I've got some actual boards here. So if I jump into this group, now that's a bit more meaningful chunk of geometry.
That's actually buildable. You could actually make that.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to show here is if you're trying to get an area of I guess the stuff you want to cut out, one option in SketchUp you have is to use area by material, but you got to be careful with how you use this. So if I jump in now, and you can see that this temple that Aaron made has this texture on it that has the plywood texture on all surfaces here. So if I were to right-click and go to area of material, I'm going to get a number that actually seems right. But that's because we're inside a group. It's taking the material area from everything inside the group, not outside the group, and it seems right because it's both sides. So if I really wanted to do this correctly, I would probably color these back the default material. So default material, go over here and do the same with this one. And now let's just take that same color swatch and apply it just to the top on both of these. So if I go in here now and right-click area of material, it's only going to be 32.
Right.
So this is a bit weird, but in SketchUp you need these to be ungrouped. So right-click and we'll explode that. So now if I right-click area of material, it's now 64 square feet. So now I kind of know what's going on there. So what I'm going to do here is sample this again and start applying this to just one face of these. So right there.
So that's a good indicator ballpark of like where you're at. Like
it's not. We'll see what happens here once we get the total. And then now that I'm doing that, I don't actually want this material to be in that count.
You got to do your walls too.
Yeah, there's a bit more work to do here.
I didn't mean to say that. I had forgotten that the walls of your model were also that same material.
So I'm gonna do that, get all those. I need to actually adjust this again because, and this is important if you want to talk about why I'm doing this while I model here.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the issue with, so Josh was using smooth geometry, but by actually going through and cutting it the way he's cutting it, this is actually fabricatable. So I mean, we can't really take a big 4x8 sheet of plywood over to the CNC and have it cut it into round, smooth corners or anything like that. What this will do is actually, he's creating geometry that's going to be something we can actually cut on the CNC.
So let's toss
Same thing here. Here, this is the potential issue with doing this, of course, is the square footage may end up less, but one of those pieces is 10 feet long and your longest board is 8 feet. So,
yeah, I'm doing this to make sure, because I cut my board out of pieces like I would in real life, but I didn't do that with the OSB or the plywood slabs.
Right.
So I don't actually know if I'm over the
Right.
64.
So again, this is just a good way to get a
Yeah, I'm just
quick
doing
gut
this.
check.
I just want to see how close this will be. So let's go there, 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 there. Probably that one too. And then this side as well. And we'll just keep, oh, the inside's got it. So that one's all good. I think I got them all. So I could now just check if I right click on one of these materials, area, material, we're at, that is, oh, that's not right because it's not grouped. So what I would do now, let's just say I wanted to know this number. I would probably just, this happens a lot in SketchUp where you just grab all of your geometry and copy it over to the side to do like a temporary thing. So if I just explode everything now, a couple of right clicks here, explode, and keep going until I don't see explode anymore as an option. Let's try it once more. And okay, good. So now that everything's out of its group, there's no nested groups here, I can right click and hopefully this is a close enough number, 85. So I'm over the 64 with this. So I'd probably take away something here to get it closer to 64. So I'm only doing that to give myself a ballpark as I design.
Right.
Because that's faster than cutting up the board slowly and rotating it, I think.
Right, and this is actually an important part of the contest. The contest is to make something we can actually produce. So if you do go in and you submit something that is, 6 sheets of plywood worth of fabrication, unfortunately we can't make that, so it's not going to get chosen as a winner. So it's something as you go through and create your models, you do want to make sure that what you create is creatable or buildable out of the materials we supply, and it actually is also buildable. This means things like if you have a piece of plywood sticking up in the air, you probably have to support it somehow. It means the ground is the ground, and you can't have stuff go below the ground. So that's the kind of thing you want to keep in mind as you go through. If you do want to enter this contest, is do create a model that's buildable. The other thing I just want to point out is Josh and I are, we're modeling kind of on the fly here, and our stuff's pretty simple looking. If you go up to 3D Warehouse and do a search for CNC Golf, you'll see some of the stuff that's been put in. People are coming up with some awesome stuff, cutting out flamingos and trees and all kinds of really cool models. So don't be limited. Don't limit yourself to what we're showing. You be creative and make some models that show what you're capable of.
Yeah, I can show a few more things here if we have time.
We have a couple more minutes.
Things you might encounter as you're doing this. So if you think of one while I'm doing this, we'll
Sure.
go back over to you. But I have a file here that has something happening where I wanted to talk about this. So let's say I wanted to, let's just grab this board here. And I want to mirror this board this direction. So if I do that, copy this over here, and I try to use the scale mirror method. I certainly could do it. You'll notice here if I grab that middle grip, go -1, enter, it's not mirroring it quite like I expected. So a pretty easy way to handle this is to make that copy and then explode the group and then now remake the group. So right click, make group, the bounding box is now going to be like that, which then if I do the scale tool, go -1. So it's actually pretty easy to remake your bounding boxes because the scale tool is going to act upon the bounding box. So you might want to do that. If you wanted to cut through something, like I think Aaron, did you show Intersect with faces?
I did not, no intersections.
So Aaron did something kind of like this, and let's say I wanted to use Intersect faces here. I think making a mini golf course like this, you probably will have a lot of opportunities to use Intersect with model, Intersect with faces. So all that means is you make some piece of geometry just for the purpose of cutting out something else. So if I had this long thing here that I wanted to cut out of these two pieces, one thing I would do first is probably go to Edit Cut. So Edit Cut, and then go into this group and paste it in place again. So Edit, Paste in place, and now it's in the context of the thing I want to cut. So if I select everything and then right-click Intersect Faces with Selection, I no longer need this thing, but I might actually keep it. Let's, yeah, so I'm gonna edit, cut that again, and then go in here and push, pull this away, clean up the rest, and I'm keeping that because on this side, I might want to cut that out again, but really what I should do is just mirror this one now, and the same thing happens here. The bounding box is not what I would like for the scale tool, so I'll just explode it, regroup it, then scale tool it, and -1, and then now I can just kind of slide that into the right spot. And then if I were really doing this, I probably would want to keep that intersecting geometry for a platform, because I could then intersect into that cutting piece and use that as a platform for maybe the golf ball to go through. So that's one option there. And oh, I forgot my other model. I did have a scene ready because I needed some color on this model, so I probably will edit one of these to maybe make it a little more appropriate for being at this mini golf hole. So we'll just call this one just, real bold, beautiful signage here. 18th hole. There we go.
This is not extension. Josh is doing that freehand, you guys.
And we'll copy this. And I haven't tried this, haven't simulated this with the sketchy physics thing, but I'm going to say if you follow the hero's route, this is a par 2. Okay,
Bold.
it's a par 5. It's par 5.
Speaking of sketchy physics, or MS physics, which is out there now, somebody did ask if we could simulate with MS physics, and in theory, yes, that is 100% possible. We did not set up for that because we figured we'd be modeling this whole time, which we have been. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be kind of cool. We didn't make it as an option. I guess you could save an MS physics model with a ball and show us how you could play the hole. That would be kind of cool. Set up your model and have it ideally set up for a hole-in-one and submit that. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fun, actually. Another question regarding the scale orientation by resetting the axis of a component. Are you doing that?
Yeah, if we want to take a look real quick.
Before Aaron starts, there is, I believe, a scale builder on this that Tyson did. So you can search for our scale builder playlist and watch it there, or watch it now.
There are so many skill builders out there that I don't even know what's in there anymore. Just to show real quick, I have a quick some quick geometry right here. So
it's not coming through. Can you flip it and flip it again?
Yeah, we're having technical difficulties. Go figure. Try again. Got to push the button.
I think.
Okay, so picture, if you will. I guess go search for the skill builder that Josh just mentioned. There we go. Okay, we're there. So here I actually have extruded rectangle, just a brick, and it's off axes. None of this is on axes. It's tipped both directions. If I make a group right now, if I come in and try to scale this, it's going to show the scale handles according to the world axes, right? Up, down, left, and right, red, green, blue. If I double click in here and grab the geometry, same thing. It's going to show my scale tool lined up to the world axes. What I can do is I can actually come in with this geometry and grab the axes tool and align it to the geometry. So I'm going to click on this point, pull the red axes up this line, green axes up this line, and now if I come in here and hit scale tool, it'll actually show that relative to that geometry. I assume this question is coming in play relative to like 2x4. So you go in and grab that geometry and you want to make it longer or move it around, scale it, something like that. It can be tough when you're at a weird angle because you distort it by doing that. So you can always realign inside of a component or a group by reassigning the axes, and then all those scale handles actually line up properly oriented. So yeah, that's a good question.
I can show one more thing here that I just thought of. And so I was showing the way to find out the area of a material by right-clicking on it, go into, I think, area and material. But as a lot of you probably know, you can just click on a surface itself. Like down here, if I click on this and have entity info open, it's going to tell me that information. Here it is in square inches. If I shift select, it's going to add to that area. So it could be faster to shift select stuff than trying to add material in the right way for the material call out right click to work. So maybe do that instead.
Makes sense.
And what else could we show, or is that about enough?
I don't know. I mean, Everybody seems to have quieted down, so
Yeah, any more questions out there?
means we may have just covered everything. There's no questions left anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I lied. Importing fonts is the other question. SketchUp does look at true type fonts that you have installed on your system. So if you use the 3D font tool, for example, the 3D text tool, it's going to show all the fonts that you have installed. So installing a font is usually pretty simple, is dropping it into a specific folder or double clicking on a font to install it. But once that font is installed, then it's accessible and you can use it inside of SketchUp. So nothing special about saying use this in SketchUp, it's the system fonts.
Yeah, and that's a good question because in this model, if I did that actually, I went and I inserted a new font that matched what was on the signage. So if I go in here, you can see that this font does match. If I place that in here, that's the same font on the sign.
Which is a non-standard font.
Non-standard,
that comes installed with the operating system.
So if I wanted to take that sign a little further, I could use the 3D text instead of the graphic to add some letters that pop out of there, give it some relief. Yeah. Or maybe adjust my 18th hole sign with some 3D text because it looks a little weak at the moment.
It looks rustic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We had a question about 2D renderings, but I don't understand what a 2D rendering is. Thoughts on that? You're talking about layout?
Maybe they just mean like a static image output, 2D export.
That's possible.
Yeah, if I wanted to produce this was ready to roll to show somebody, I go to File, Export, 2D graphic, or 2D rendering perhaps.
Right.
And
generally speaking, a lot of times we use the term rendering, we're talking about photorealism, and that's usually a 3D thing because we take into account where light falls, shadows, that kind of stuff, textures, materials, but you could export, 2D drawings as well.
And then there's a question that is only 2 words, but I understand it, mirror extension.
Yes,
there are mirror extensions. If it really bothers you to do the scale tool and type -1.
Or flip along axes by right-clicking.
Yeah, which I'm cool with doing, but if you want a mirror extension, there's at least 2 I know of.
Both called mirror, I think.
Yeah. So if you would like to get them, I kind of like the scale tool thing. I'm just used to it, I guess. But
also something that there is a full skill builder on is flipping or mirroring, or maybe it's called all those things. But there's several ways to reverse things.
Yeah, because you mentioned it though, there is a right-click flip along option. So in SketchUp, if you right-click on a group or component, you can flip along one of the 3 directions, which is nice if those are the only 3 directions you need.
Those are choices.
But that is an option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've wrapped up. So
all right.
that's it. So yeah, get your entries in. If you haven't already submitted, you do want to get your entries in there. It's worth doing because, like I said, not only will we cut our top 6 entrants so we can actually play mini golf on those. The winner, the person who has the best hole as voted by the community, gets a free pass to base camp. So it's worth doing, worth a little bit of work, get an awesome hole up there, and come hang out at base camp with us.
Yeah.
That's all we got for now, though.
Okay.
So thank you.
See you next time.